Yo, what's going on, everybody? Swagkage here, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about Boruto episode 25. And let me just preface the video by saying I don't believe I have a whole lot to say about this episode, though that might change. I say that in just about every review, and I end up having to cut that part out because the reviews go on for like 10 plus minutes just about every time because I go off on tangents or end up having more to say than I initially thought. But anyway, so this episode was fine. Like the last episode, I liked it despite the fact that it was pretty slow and seemed like more of a slice of life episode than a plot or action oriented one. It was just very character focused, and it's like its foundation was clearly built on the interactions between the characters. You know, it wasn't trying to move the plot forward. It wasn't trying to do anything too crazy. It just wanted to set up certain conversations between certain characters and certain scenarios and things of that nature. It didn't really introduce too much except for one thing that I'm going to be talking about primarily in this video, and that is the differences between the old Hidden Mist Village and the modern Hidden Mist Village. Generally, a pretty safe, not ambitious episode. It was, again, you know, very slice of life heavy. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be surprised that I liked this episode and didn't really like the Naruto Gaiden stuff, but it was more tightly written than anything in that arc, I believe. So I guess first things first, the main plot of the episode is centered around the fact that all of the kids, or at least all of the kids in Boruto's class, are going on a field trip to the Hidden Mist Village, and I actually think that that was is a little bit weird. Well, first of all, I thought all of the kids graduated from the academy already, so I'm a bit surprised that they're still going. But second of all, I think it's a bit weird to hear the term field trip being used in the Ninja Academy. I just never thought of it as a school in the traditional sense. Now, granted, field trips are probably a pretty new thing as far as the Ninja Academy is concerned. I can't imagine the old, like, dark and gritty Naruto's Ninja Academy having something as conventional and, I guess, like, family-friendly, quote-unquote, as field trips, but, you know, whatever, I guess they're here. It was just, the Boruto anime has just, everything feels like, it seems like the writers are essentially trying to throw Naruto characters into the real world here. I don't know, maybe I'm getting too hung up on the idea of a field trip being taken by Naruto characters by, like, these students in a ninja academy, but it just seemed a little bit silly to me. Not that that's a bad thing, it just, you know, it just hit me and I was like, whoa, these guys are, they're going off on a school field trip now, huh? Or at least a class one. The class elected a leader to be like the representative of the class for the field trip, and they chose Boruto. Nobody really wanted to do it. Boruto was pretty upset about having to do it, but he was chosen anyway. So I guess that's that. Whatever. I mean, like, it didn't really change much at all. Boruto's role as like class field trip leader isn't really too much attention isn't brought to it when they actually get to the Hidden Mist Village. Another thing that a whole lot of attention isn't brought to is the fact that Sumire has been made a regular student of the class again, and she's just, you know, standing around acting like she didn't attempt to nuke the entire Leaf Village. My thoughts about that should be pretty apparent, so I won't spend too much time talking about it, but I just thought that I shouldn't ignore her presence in this episode. Anyway, biggest thing is when they get to the Mist Village, it's like crazy modern, right? Like, it's like this fucking, like, imagine like LA, but in Naruto. Like, this village looks, I mean, it's not a village, it's a fucking metropolis right now, right? It is super modern. It's way nicer than even the Hidden Leaf is now. It's like, I thought the Hidden Villages were supposed to be these really weird feudal Japan-esque settlements hidden within the modern world, because there are a couple times in the original Naruto and Shippuden that over the mountain that the Hokage monument is laid on, you can see what looks to be, anyway, a modern city in the background. So the fact that the villages have now evolved into modern cities seems a bit weird to me. But, I mean, especially the Hidden Mist Village, because this is the place where Zabuza came from, right? You know, like the Blood Mist Village, where everything was super brutal. I mean, like, it's not just that Zabuza came from here. In Shippuden, the Mizukage hints at a bit of discourse going on in the village. You know, like, there's a lot of corruption being spread about through it. As a matter of fact, Kisame didn't feel too bad about leaving the Mist to join the Akatsuki because of how terrible everything was back there. Everything was corrupt. It was, you know, like, it was like Game of Thrones going on every day there. Everybody was backstabbing each other, trying to usurp one another. Obito was controlling the Mizukage. It just wasn't really good. And apparently the village just, like, it got its shit together, and now it's like, it's flexing on everybody. It's a nicer place to live than the Hidden Leaf. Now, I can't speak for the Stone, the Hidden Cloud, or the Hidden Sand, but, you know, the Hidden Mist is looking like a pretty nice place to go for a vacation. Iwabe notes later on in the episode that it seems to be just a cover-up for everything that went on in the Hidden Mist Village's past, and I guess, like, maybe, you know, the really nice exterior is just supposed to to be a sort of mask for the village's true heart. And this claim is given some validity when Boruto, Denki, and Iwabe end up running into this mist guy who has this really goofy design. He looks like a shark given human form, and he's just a total dick to everybody. This guy bumps into Boruto as Boruto turns around and tries to walk the other way. And Boruto's all like, oh, sorry, man, you know, I didn't mean to. And then Iwabe's like, no, Boruto, you didn't bump into him. This guy bumped into you. And then that guy is like, oh, so what if I did? Who gives a shit? And then they get ready to fight, and I'm like, oh, is everybody in the mist actually secretly a dick? Is that where they're going with this? Was Iwabe right the whole time? They're just, you know, it's just a front how nice everything looks here. And then this other guy shows up. I forget his name, but he reminds me a little bit of Suigetsu because of the shark teeth he has. Although I guess that's partially due to the fact that he is from the Hidden Mist Village. You know, like both of them. But anyway, that's not the point. I thought he was going to be pretty generic. He was just like, hey, what are you doing, man? But he actually, he goes up to Boruto, starts talking to him. For some reason, he compliments Boruto's eyes. No idea why, but I actually liked the way this guy talked. I thought he just made the episode more interesting. Couldn't really tell you what it is about him. Maybe he's just charismatic or something. Not too sure. But I liked this guy. I liked him a lot more than his goofy-looking friend over here. Like, this guy just looks really funny. That's all I have to say about him. The Mizukage, that being Chojuro now, was mentioned a couple times in this episode, and I thought, I mean, like, he wasn't shown. I wanted to see some of Chojuro, but I was thinking in the back of my mind, like, I wonder what happened to Mei. That question does sort of anyway get answered in the preview for next week's episode. We're gonna see Mei next week, but that's not the point. I'm talking about this week's episode. But yeah, she's still in the village, which I think is cool. I'll talk more about that next week when we actually see some more of her. But you don't really get to see any of Chojuro. On the subject of the Kage, a lot of people mention that Boruto's the son of Naruto, and I just, like, it'd be really cool if we could stop having that hammered into our skulls. I get it that Boruto's Naruto's son. Like, I know he's the son of the Hokage. It's very obvious. I guess I can't fault the episode for that. It's probably more just that the characters just remark it when they see him, because it's pretty important. It's a big part of his character that he's Naruto's son, and that's probably the only reason why people know who he is in the first place. But it's just, I don't feel like I constantly need to be reminded. Another thing, real quick. This is a gripe I had with the episode. I know I'm kind of jumping around about my thoughts on everything, but I really want to point this out before I forget. Animation in this episode was generally, like, pretty decent. You know, it was fine. I didn't have too many problems with it. But, oh my god, there were so many still frame shots scattered throughout this episode. It was really annoying. And for those of you who don't know what I mean, like, a still frame shot is just when they have a completely still image and they extend it over the course of a couple seconds, you know, like, just for one reason or another. Like, sometimes they have montages of still image shots in... It happens more frequently in long-running anime, I believe, than in Western cartoons, but you know, it's just, you know, it's a way for them to save the budget so they don't have to pay for more animation. But it was pretty prevalent throughout this episode. I saw a lot of still frame shots, and I was like, I'm gonna have to dock points for that. But other than that, the animation and the art were pretty solid throughout the episode. There were a few instances where the art was like, but for the most part, it looked great. You know, no complaints from me. It wasn't like stellar or anything. It was just what you'd expect. But moving on, back to the plot of the episode. There's this one guy. I'm not entirely sure how important he's actually going to be, but all of the girls in Boruto's class were like fucking swooning over this guy. Like, oh my god, he's so dreamy. He's so different from all the boys in our class. And Chocho's just weird as always. I guess she's just like, you know, I guess he is pretty hot, but I wonder what he's like on the inside. She was more concerned with his personality or something like that, I guess. Sarada was pretty annoying, by the way. She was a pretty snide, smug bitch throughout the episode. I still do not like Sarada, like, at all, but I mean, that's really up to personal preference. Speaking of, when are they gonna change the ending? Maybe they don't have to change like the whole thing, but they could at least change like the animation for it, so it's not just Sarada walking in a straight line, right? I'm not crazy for expecting something like that. I'm also wondering when they're gonna change the opening. It's been 25 episodes, and now forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that most Naruto openings lasted for around this much time, if not less. So So, you know, like, I like the current opening that we have. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just thinking, like, isn't it about time we got a new one? It'll probably change after this mini arc. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be, like, a standalone set of episodes, or if it's supposed to set up its own new arc, that like another one that's supposed to take place before all of the Boruto, Naruto, the movie stuff. I know that it's going to be a sequence of episodes, and that next week's episode is going to follow up the events of this one, but I don't know, like, how long this arc, I guess I'll refer to it as, is going to be. If it's just going to be 2 episodes, if it's going to be 3, if it's going to be like 10. But the guy that I was mentioning earlier, who I thought was pretty cool and charismatic from the Mist, he does say, you know, enjoy your time here in the Blood Mist Village. So I thought that was a pretty cool note to leave off on. I don't really know how to take that. Like, some people still view the Mist as the Blood Mist. What exactly does that mean? Probably find out more about why this guy said that next week. I mean, like, that's pretty much that's pretty much what this week's episode was. It's like, okay, gotta wait for next week to see what happens, because there was a whole lot of setup and not a lot of payoff. And, you know, I'm not docking the episode for that, because you can only do so much in a 20-minute anime episode, but, you know, still, I'd give it a pretty solid 3 out of 5. It was just a really good, enjoyable episode. Nothing really wrong with it from me. Let me know your thoughts about the episode in the comments below, as always, and until my next video, I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.